They threw me a retirement party on a Thursday. Not a Saturday, not a Friday night. Thursday at 4 in the afternoon, which meant half the people had to leave early to beat traffic. My son Derek stood up with a champagne flute that cost more than my first car and gave a speech about legacy and gratitude and new chapters. My daughter Linda cried on cue. Her husband Brian filmed the whole thing on his phone, probably for their social media. I smiled and nodded and cut the cake. The bakery had misspelled my name. Congratulations, Richard, instead of congratulations, Robert. Nobody noticed until I pointed it out. Linda laughed and said it added character. Derek said the sentiment was what mattered. I ate my slice and watched them divide the rest among the staff, most of whom I'd hired 20 years ago and who now avoided eye contact with me. That was April. By May, I wasn't invited to the morning meetings anymore. The business I built from nothing, a regional trucking and logistics company called Brennan Transport, had been my life for 33 years. Started with one truck and a pager, built it to 47 vehicles, 2 warehouses, and contracts with every major retailer within 300 miles. My name was still on the building. My signature was still on half the contracts. But Derek had the operations password now. Linda had migrated the bank accounts to a new system I didn't have access to. They said it was for my own good, time to rest, time to enjoy life. They'd handle everything. I was 62. I could still work 16-hour days without coffee, but they looked at me like I was 80, like I was confused, like I needed help finding the bathroom. Dad, you've earned this, Derek said one morning in June when I showed up at the office unannounced. He was in my chair, behind my desk. Go fishing? Travel? Isn't that what retirement's supposed to be? I don't fish. Well, find a hobby. Mom always said you work too hard. Their mother died 9 years ago. Aneurysm. She went to sleep one night and didn't wake up. The funeral was the last time I saw Derek cry. Now he wore suits that cost $3,000 and drove a Tesla. Linda had the same hollow look in her eyes that her mother got when she was hiding something. I left the office that day and drove to the storage unit I'd rented the week before. Nobody knew about it. Not Derek, not Linda, not Brian or Derek's wife Amanda. I'd paid cash for 6 months. Inside were boxes of documents I'd quietly removed from the office over the previous month. Original contracts, insurance policies, certification records, maintenance logs. Everything was digital now, Derek assured me. Everything was backed up in the cloud. Except the originals weren't in the cloud. They were in Unit 247 at U-Store off Highway 9. I sat on the concrete floor and started reading. By July, I understood what they'd done. The transition hadn't started at my retirement party. It had started 18 months before, when Linda convinced me to bring her on as CFO. Dad, you need help with the books. Let me take some of that burden off you. She had an MBA. She was smart. I was proud. I signed the paperwork that gave her financial signatory authority. 6 months later, Derek came to me. Dad, I want to come back to the family business. He'd spent 5 years in Charlotte working for some corporate logistics firm, making good money, wearing ties. I miss it. I miss working with you. I was thrilled. My son, coming home, taking an interest, I made him VP of Operations. Gave him access to scheduling, dispatch, driver management. He was good at it, I had to admit. Efficiency went up, costs went down. He hired his friend Kevin to modernize our software systems. What I didn't see, what I wasn't supposed to see, was the slow transfer of institutional control. Every system Kevin built, I wasn't administrator on. Every new contract Linda negotiated, I wasn't copied on. Every operational change Derek made, I found out about afterward. By the time they suggested retirement, I'd already been retired. I just didn't know it yet. I found the emails in one of the boxes. Printed copies that Linda's secretary had accidentally included in a file I'd asked for months ago. I hadn't read them at the time. Now I did. Derek, Dad's getting sentimental about the Walker contract. Don't let him tank the renegotiation. Just tell him it's handled. Linda, we need to move faster on the bank transition. He still checks the statements. Brian thinks we should wait until after the party to change the building lease. Don't want Dad getting paranoid. Paranoid. I read that word sitting in the storage unit at 9 at night, fluorescent light humming overhead, June bugs hitting the metal door. I read it 5 times. Then I put the paper back in the box, locked the unit, and drove home. My house, the house where I'd raised them, where their mother died, where I still lived alone, felt different now. The photos on the wall looked like evidence. Derek at his college graduation, Linda at her wedding, both of them smiling, hugging me, playing the part. I slept 4 hours that night. When I woke up, I knew what I was going to do. I was going to stop objecting. Derek called that morning. Hey, Dad, just checking in. You doing okay? I'm great, I said. You're right. I should relax. Enjoy myself. Pause. Really? Really, you and Linda are doing a fantastic job. I'm proud of you both. Another pause. Longer. Thanks, Dad. That means a lot. I was thinking I might take a trip, see the Grand Canyon. I've never been. That's great. You should definitely do that. You have my credit card info if you need anything, right? I'm fine. I've got savings. Well, let me know if... Derek, I trust you, both of you. You've got this. Silence on the other end. Then, thanks, Dad. Have a good trip. I didn't go to the Grand Canyon. I went to see a lawyer named Paul Vickers. I'd used him for contract work back in the early days before we had in-house counsel. He was 70 now, semi-retired, working out of a small office above a hardware store. He looked at the documents I brought him for 2 hours without speaking. Finally, Robert, this is a mess. I know. You signed away more than you think you did. I know that too. He leaned back in his chair. It squeaked. What do you want to do? I want to know if they own it. Own what? Everything. The business, the building, the assets. Do they actually own it? He was quiet for a long time. Then he smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. No? Explain. You transferred operational control. You transferred financial authority. You even transferred some intellectual property rights. But the core asset, the business license, the LLC registration, the founding charter, those were never formally transferred. They're still in your name. Everything they've built in the last 18 months is built on your legal foundation. If you pulled that foundation, it all falls apart. Can they stop me? From what? You still technically own Brennan Transport. You can revoke authorities, you can change locks, you can fire employees, you can dissolve contracts, as long as you don't violate any specific agreements, and based on what I'm seeing here, there aren't many. You have unilateral control. Why wouldn't they have fixed that? Paul shrugged. Arrogance. Assumption. Maybe they thought you'd never check. Maybe they planned to handle it after you were fully out. Or maybe they just don't know corporate law as well as they think they do. I sat there processing. How long do I have? Until they realize the problem and file to correct it. Could be months, could be years, could be never, if they're sloppy. But once they know, they'll move fast. Then I need to move faster. Robert, he leaned forward. What exactly are you planning? I'm planning to take back what's mine. That's going to get ugly. I know. Your kids will hate you. They already do. They just haven't admitted it yet. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he pulled out a legal pad and started writing. You're going to need a strategy, and you're going to need to be smarter than them. I've got time, I said. They think I'm on vacation. I left his office with a file folder full of notes and a plan that would take months to execute. The first step was simple. Do nothing. Let them think they'd won. Let them get comfortable. Let them make mistakes. I stopped going to the office entirely. Stopped calling. Stopped asking questions. When Derek texted me about signing off on a new equipment purchase, I replied, You've got my full confidence. Do what you think is best. When Linda called about updating the company insurance, I said, Whatever you think, honey, I trust your judgment. When Brian posted photos of himself at a company event wearing a Brennan Transport polo, I liked the post. I played the part of the grateful, relieved retiree. I sent them cheerful text messages about weather and baseball. I asked about the grandkids. I mailed birthday cards. I was the perfect, harmless father. And I watched. From the storage unit, from the coffee shop across the street from the office, from the parking lot at 3 a.m. when I followed Derek home from the bar he thought I didn't know about. I watched, I learned schedules, I documented patterns, I recorded conversations through open windows, I saved every email they sent me. I photographed every document I could access. It took me 2 weeks to realize something else was happening, something I hadn't anticipated. Derek was having an affair. I saw her first at a restaurant downtown. I'd been following him after work, staying 3 cars back, watching him take a route that wasn't toward home. He parked at an Italian place I'd never heard of and walked in without hesitation. Through the window, I saw him hug a woman in her 30s, blonde, wearing a sundress. They sat at a corner table. He ordered wine. They held hands. Amanda was at home with their 2 kids. I knew because I'd driven past their house an hour earlier and seen her Mercedes in the driveway. I took photos. Not because I planned to use them, not yet, but because information was currency and I needed to be rich. The affair was 3 months old, based on what I could piece together. The woman's name was Jill. She worked in sales for one of our competitors. They'd met at an industry conference. Derek was stupid enough to use the company credit card for their hotel rooms. Linda didn't know, but Brian did. I found that out the following week when I sat in my car outside a sports bar and watched Brian meet Derek for drinks. They sat at the bar, thinking they were private, not realizing I was 20 feet away in a booth with a clear view. I couldn't hear everything, but I heard enough. You need to be more careful. I am careful. Amanda's going to find out. She won't. And if she does, then I'll handle it. This could blow up the whole thing, Derek. You understand that? What thing? Brian lowered his voice. I leaned closer. The business, your dad's retirement, all of it. If Amanda files for divorce, if she goes to your dad, she won't go to him. She hates him. Does she? Derek didn't answer that. He drank his beer, changed the subject. But I'd heard what I needed. Amanda hated me, or they'd convinced her to. I didn't know which. I didn't care. It was another crack in the foundation. August burned into September. I kept my distance, kept playing my part. Meanwhile, Linda made a mistake. She fired Tom. Tom had been with me since year 2. Master mechanic. Kept the fleet running when we couldn't afford new trucks. Loyal, careful, honest. He called me the day it happened. Robert, I don't understand. Linda said they were restructuring. Said my position was redundant after 28 years. What did she offer you? 2 weeks severance, that's it. Did you sign anything? No, she said I had until Monday. Don't sign it. I'll call you back. I called Paul Vickers. Can they fire employees without my approval? Depends on the operational authority structure. What does the charter say? I read him the relevant section. He was quiet. Then, no, they can't. Not without your written consent for any employee with more than 10 years tenure. It's in Section 7. They don't know that. Apparently not. What happens if Tom sues? He'd win, and it would expose the fact that your kids have been operating outside their legal authority, which means every operational decision they've made could be challenged, contracts could be voided, clients could sue. It would be chaos. Good. Robert, I'm not letting them fire Tom. I'm going to fix this, but not yet. I called Tom back. Don't sign anything. Don't talk to Linda. Don't quit. Take a week off. I'll pay you myself. When you come back, everything will be different. What are you going to do? Something I should have done in April. That night, I drove past Derek's house. The lights were on. I could see him through the living room window, playing with his kids. Amanda was in the kitchen. Normal, domestic, built on lies. I drove past Linda's house. She and Brian were fighting. I couldn't hear it, but I could see it. Her pacing, him sitting on the couch with his arms crossed, both of them locked in something that looked like it had been going on for hours. I drove home, sat in my driveway, looked at my house, the house that was paid off, that they couldn't touch, that was still mine, and I smiled. The next morning, Derek called. Dad, hey, quick question. What's up? Are you still on the insurance policy for the business? I don't know. Why? Just trying to clean up some paperwork. Make sure everything's current. Ask Linda. She handles all that. Right. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. He hung up. I stared at my phone. They were getting nervous. Something had spooked them. Maybe the Tom situation. Maybe something else. But they were starting to check things they'd assumed were handled. That meant my window was closing. I called Paul. How fast can we move? Depends on what you want to do. I want to take back operational control. I want to revoke their authorities. I want to lock them out. Legally, you can do that, but you need to do it right. If you make a mistake, they can challenge it. You need documentation. You need witnesses. You need to show cause. I've got documentation. For what? Unauthorized termination, breach of fiduciary duty, misuse of company assets. Probably a few other things if I dig deeper. Silence. Then, when do you want to do this? 2 weeks. That's not much time. It's enough. I spent the next 13 days preparing. I documented everything. Every email, every conversation, every operational decision made without my consent. I contacted clients directly, told them I was still involved, still overseeing things. Most were confused, a few were relieved. One told me that Linda had tried to renegotiate their contract terms and he'd been uncomfortable with it. She said you'd signed off on it, he said. But it didn't feel right. I didn't sign off on anything. I figured. That's why I stalled. What's going on, Robert? I'm fixing a problem. Give me 2 weeks and it'll be resolved. On day 12, Amanda called me. I almost didn't answer. We hadn't spoken since the retirement party. Robert, I need to talk to you. About? Derek. My pulse quickened. What about him? I think he's cheating on me. I didn't say anything. Let the silence build. I found hotel receipts, charges on the company card, and he's been distant, distracted. I don't know what to do. Why are you calling me? Because you're his father, and because I don't have anyone else to talk to about this. My parents think Derek's perfect. His sister thinks I'm paranoid. But you know him better than anyone. I sat down. Amanda, I can't get involved in your marriage. I'm not asking you to. Do you know anything? No. Lie, but necessary. If she knew I knew, it would complicate everything. Okay, she said, voice small, defeated. I'm sorry for bothering you. Amanda, wait. Yeah? Whatever happens, protect yourself. Get a lawyer, make sure you're covered. Why would you say that? Because I've been married. I know how these things go, and I know my son. She hung up. I sat there holding the phone, thinking about the collision that was coming. In 2 days, I was going to walk into the office and revoke every authority Derek and Linda had. I was going to lock them out of the systems. I was going to fire Brian. I was going to expose Derek's affair and Linda's financial mismanagement and every lie they'd told. And Amanda had just armed herself without knowing it. On day 14, a Monday in late September, I woke up at 5, showered, put on the suit I'd bought for the retirement party and never worn, drove to the office. The parking lot was empty. I had keys to everything. I let myself in through the side entrance, disabled the alarm with the master code that nobody knew I still had, and walked through the dark building. My building. I went to Derek's office first, sat in his chair, opened his computer. He'd never changed the password from the default I'd set, read through his emails, found the thread with Jill, downloaded it, found the expense reports, downloaded those too, found the operational changes he'd made without authorization, downloaded everything. Then I went to Linda's office. Same process, same discoveries, contracts altered, payments rerouted, vendor relationships changed, all without my approval, all technically illegal. At 7, the staff started arriving. They saw me in the lobby and froze. Morning, I said. Mr. Brennan, the receptionist stammered. We didn't know you were coming in. It's my building. I don't need an appointment. Linda arrived at 7:30. She saw me sitting in the conference room with Paul Vickers and went pale. Dad, what's going on? Close the door. She did, sat down. Paul slid a folder across the table. That's a notice of revocation, I said. Effective immediately, your financial signatory authority is suspended. Your operational control is suspended. Your access to company systems is suspended. You're being placed on administrative leave pending an internal review. What? Dad, you can't... I can. Read the charter. Section 4, Section 7, Section 11. You never had the authority you thought you did. Everything you've done for the last 18 months has been provisional. I'm revoking that provision. This is insane. This is legal. Paul's voice was calm, cold. Your father has every right to resume operational control of his company. If you have questions, you can consult your own attorney. Where's Derek? He'll get the same notice when he arrives. Linda's face went from pale to red. You're doing this because we suggested you retire? Because we tried to help you? You didn't try to help me. You tried to replace me. There's a difference. We built this company. No, I built this company. You worked here. There's a difference there, too. She stood up, shaking. Brian is going to hear about this. Brian is fired. That's in the folder, too. She grabbed the folder and walked out, slammed the door hard enough to rattle the glass. Paul looked at me. You okay? I'm fine. She's going to fight this. Let her try. Derek arrived at 8. I was waiting in his office. He saw me and stopped in the doorway. We need to talk, I said. Dad, what the hell is going on? Linda just called me. Sit down. He sat. I slid an identical folder across his desk. You're suspended. Effective immediately. Pending review. He opened the folder, read the first page, looked up at me. You can't do this. I already did. We'll sue you. With what money? You don't have any. Everything you have is tied to this company, and I own the company. You never did. You just thought you did. He stood up, taller than me, broader, younger. This is bullshit. So is your affair with Jill. He froze. Did you think I wouldn't find out? Did you think nobody would notice you using the company card to pay for hotel rooms? That's none of your business. It's my business when it's my company card. It's also Amanda's business. Does she know? His jaw tightened. You wouldn't. I don't have to. She already suspects. She called me 2 days ago. You're lying. Call her. Ask her. He didn't move. We stood there in his office. My office, really. I'd just let him borrow it. Staring at each other. Finally, he said, "Why are you doing this?" "Because you took something that wasn't yours, and because you did it while pretending to care about me." "We do care about you." "No, you cared about what I had. There's a difference." I walked out, left him standing there. The rest of the day was chaos. Linda tried to access the bank accounts and couldn't. Derek tried to log into the operations system and couldn't. Brian showed up and started yelling in the lobby until I had security escort him out. Staff members came to me confused, asking what was happening, asking if they still had jobs. "Everyone keeps their job," I said, "except the people who don't." By noon, Tom was back. By 2, I'd sent an email to every client confirming that I'd resumed active management. By 4, I'd changed every password, every lock, every access code. By 6, the building was empty, except for me and Paul. "You did it," he said. "I did. How do you feel?" I looked around the office. My office. Still mine. "I feel like I'm just getting started." He left. I stayed. Worked until midnight. Went home. Slept better than I had in months. The next morning, the lawsuit started. Before we continue, hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments, and we'd love to get to know our audience better. The first lawsuit arrived by courier at 7 in the morning. I was drinking coffee when the doorbell rang. I signed for the envelope, carried it to the kitchen table, and opened it while my coffee got cold. Derek and Linda were suing me for wrongful termination, breach of fiduciary duty, emotional distress, and something called interference with business expectations. Their lawyer was someone named Ellen Park from a firm in Charlotte. The letter was 12 pages long and full of words like unconscionable and elder abuse. I called Paul. "They're calling it elder abuse," I said. "Of course they are. It's the only angle they have. They're going to argue you're not competent to run the company, that you're acting erratically, that they need to be reinstated for your own protection. Can they win? Not if you're careful. Don't give them ammunition. Don't do anything that looks unstable or vindictive. Run the company well. Be professional. Let them hang themselves." I spent that morning doing exactly that. I reviewed every operational decision Derek had made in the last 6 months and found 3 that violated EPA regulations. Nothing major, but enough to be problematic. I contacted the compliance officer, a woman named Rita who'd been trying to flag issues for months, and started fixing them. "Mr. Brennan, I tried to tell Derek about these," she said. "He said he'd handle it, then nothing happened. It's handled now. Document everything you flagged and everything he ignored. I might need it." By noon, I had a 50-page file of operational failures. By 2, I'd sent it to Paul. Linda called at 3. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. "Dad, this is ridiculous. We can fix this. Just call me back. Please." I deleted it. Derek called at 4. I didn't answer that either. His voicemail was shorter. "You're making a mistake. Call our lawyer. Let's work this out." I deleted that too. At 5, Amanda called. I answered. "Robert, what the hell is happening? Your husband didn't tell you? He said you had some kind of breakdown, that you fired him and Linda for no reason, that you're suing the family? He's lying. About what?" "All of it. I didn't fire him for no reason. I fired him because he's been operating illegally, because he's been stealing from the company, and because he's been sleeping with someone named Jill for the last 3 months. Silence. "Amanda? How do you know that?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Because I've been watching, because I knew something was wrong, and because he was stupid enough to leave evidence everywhere." "What evidence?" "Emails, hotel receipts, credit card statements. I can send them to you if you want." More silence. Then, "Send them. Are you sure?" "Yes." I emailed her everything. Every receipt. Every message. Every photo I'd taken of Derek and Jill together. It took 10 minutes to compile. When I hit send, I felt something that might have been guilt, but probably wasn't. No, she called back an hour later. "I'm filing for divorce." "I'm sorry." "No, you're not." "You're right. I'm not. But I didn't want it to happen this way." "What did you want?" "I wanted him to be better than this, but he's not. So now I'm burning it all down." "Does that include me?" "That's up to you. If you stay with him, yes. If you don't, no. That's not fair." "Nothing about this is fair, Amanda. You're just figuring that out later than I did." She hung up. I sat in my kitchen staring at my phone, wondering if I'd just destroyed my son's marriage or if he'd done that himself. Both, probably. The second lawsuit arrived the next day. Brian was suing me for wrongful termination and defamation. He claimed I'd told staff members he was stealing from the company. I hadn't, but I probably would have if I'd thought of it. Paul called. You need to stop engaging with them. I'm not engaging. You sent Amanda evidence of Derek's affair. That's engaging. She asked for it. Doesn't matter. Their lawyers are going to use it. They're going to say you're trying to destroy Derek's family, that you're vindictive, that you're unstable. I am vindictive. Yes, but don't make it easy for them. From now on, no contact, no emails, no calls, nothing. If they reach out, forward it to me. Let me handle it. Fine. I'm serious, Robert. They're going to try to provoke you. Don't take the bait. I hung up and immediately got a text from Linda. Dad, please. This is tearing the family apart. Can we just talk? I'll come to your house. Just the two of us. I stared at it for 5 minutes. Then I forwarded it to Paul and turned my phone off. That night, I drove past Linda's house. The lights were on. I could see her and Brian through the window. They were arguing again. He was gesturing wildly. She was crying. I watched for 10 minutes, then drove away. I wasn't supposed to be doing this. Paul had told me to stay away from them. But I couldn't help it. I needed to see what I was destroying. The next morning, I went to the office early. Tom was already there, working on one of the trucks. You didn't have to come in this early, I said. Wanted to. Feels good to be back. I'm glad. He wiped his hands on a rag. Mr. Brennan, can I ask you something? Sure. What's the end game here? What do you mean? With Derek and Linda, the lawsuits, all of it, what are you trying to accomplish? I'm taking back my company. You already did that, so what happens now? I didn't have an answer. Or maybe I did, but I didn't want to say it out loud. What I was trying to accomplish wasn't just taking back the company, it was punishing them, making them hurt the way I'd hurt, making them understand what they'd taken from me. I don't know, I said. I'm figuring it out as I go. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he nodded and went back to work. I spent the day reviewing contracts. Derek had renegotiated 12 major accounts in the last year. Most of them were fine. 2 were disasters. He'd agreed to payment terms that ate into our margins. He'd committed to delivery schedules we couldn't meet. He'd done it all without consulting me, without checking our capacity, without thinking past the immediate win. I called one of the clients, a furniture company that moved 60 truckloads a month through us. Robert, good to hear from you. We were wondering when you'd resurface. I'm back, full-time. Good, because we need to talk about this new contract Derek signed. What about it? It's not working. The delivery windows are too tight. We're having to pay expediting fees. It's costing us more than the old contract. I'll fix it. When? This week. I'll send you a revised proposal by Friday. And Derek? Derek's not with the company anymore. Pause. Is that going to be a problem? No, it's the solution to the problem. I renegotiated the contract that afternoon. Better terms for them. Better margins for us. Proof that I could still do this job better than my kids could. By the end of the week, I'd fixed 4 contracts, restored 3 client relationships, and increased our monthly revenue by 8%. I sent the report to Paul with a note. Still think I'm having a breakdown? He called me. This is good. Keep doing this. Show them you're competent. Show the court you're competent. Make them prove you're not. What are they saying? That you're paranoid. That you're isolated. That you've been acting strangely since your wife died. They're building a narrative. Let them. I've got numbers. Numbers don't lie. Numbers aren't enough. They're going to call witnesses, employees, clients. They're going to ask people if you've been acting different. Be prepared for that. I'm always prepared. He hung up. I sat in my office looking at the framed photo on my desk, me and Ellen on our 30th anniversary, 3 months before she died. She was smiling. I wasn't. I never smiled in photos. She used to joke that I was saving it for something important. I wondered what she'd think of all this. Probably nothing good. She'd always wanted me to be closer to the kids, to trust them more, to let go a little. But she didn't know what they were really like. Or maybe she did, and that's why she wanted me to let go. Maybe she knew they'd do exactly this, and she wanted me to accept it. I put the photo face down in a drawer and got back to work. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for mid-October. Paul called me the night before to prep. They're going to argue that you're not fit to run the company, that your recent actions prove diminished capacity, that you need a conservator. A conservator. Someone to make decisions for you, manage your affairs. Probably Linda. That's the spirit. But don't say that in court. In court, you're calm, professional, respectful. You answer questions clearly. You don't volunteer information. You don't get emotional. I don't get emotional. You do. I've seen it. Your jaw gets tight. Your voice gets hard. That's emotion. Control it. I hung up and spent the rest of the night reviewing the case file. Every document, every email, every piece of evidence. By 3 a.m, I had it memorized. I showed up to court at 8. Derek and Linda were already there with their lawyer, Ellen Park. She was younger than I expected. Early 40s, expensive suit, the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. Mr. Brennan, I'm Ellen Park. I represent your children. I know who you are. I was hoping we could talk before the hearing, see if there's a way to resolve this without litigation. There isn't. Are you sure? Because this is going to be expensive. For everyone. And it's going to be public. Do you really want your family's problems aired in court? My family's problems have been aired at my expense for 18 months. I don't mind returning the favor. Her smile disappeared. That's unfortunate. We were hoping for a more cooperative approach. Then you shouldn't have sued me. She walked away. Derek watched me from across the hall, but didn't come over. Linda looked like she'd been crying. Brian wasn't there, probably told to stay away. The hearing lasted 2 hours. Ellen argued that I was acting erratically, that I'd fired my children without cause, that I'd revoked their authorities capriciously, that I'd interfered in Derek's marriage, that I was isolated, paranoid, and possibly suffering from early dementia. Paul countered with financial reports showing improved performance, with testimony from Tom about the operational improvements, with documentation of every illegal or unauthorized decision Derek and Linda had made. The judge, a woman named Patricia Odom, who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else, listened to both sides without expression. Finally, she said, I'm not making a ruling today. I need to review the materials. But I will say this. Mr. Brennan, if you're trying to prove you're competent to run a company, maybe don't spend your time following your son around and sending evidence of his affair to his wife. My stomach dropped. How do you know I did that? Because Mrs. Ellen Park just told me, and because your daughter-in-law filed a restraining order request this morning claiming you've been harassing her. That's not true. Is it true you sent her emails and photos? She asked for them. Did she ask you to surveil her husband? I didn't answer. That's what I thought. Judge Odom closed her file. Gentlemen, I strongly suggest you figure out a way to resolve this without my involvement, because if I have to get involved, nobody's going to be happy. Understood? Everyone nodded. The hearing ended. Paul grabbed my arm on the way out. What the hell were you thinking? Amanda asked me for evidence. I don't care what she asked for. You can't be spying on your son. You can't be following people around. That makes you look crazy. I'm not crazy. Then stop acting like it. He walked away. I stood in the courthouse hallway watching Derek and Linda leave with their lawyer. They didn't look back. I drove home and sat in my driveway for 20 minutes before going inside. The house was cold. I turned up the heat and made coffee and sat at the kitchen table staring at nothing. Paul was right. I'd screwed up. I'd given them ammunition. I'd let my anger control me instead of controlling my anger, but I wasn't done yet. That night, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I answered. Mr. Brennan? Yes. This is Jill, Derek's friend. I sat up. How did you get this number? I found it in Derek's phone. I need to talk to you. About? About Derek. About what's happening. Can we meet? Why would I meet with you? Because I have information you might want, about Derek and Linda, about what they've been planning. What kind of information? Not on the phone. Can we meet tomorrow? There's a coffee shop on Elm Street. I'll be there at noon. She hung up before I could respond. I sat there holding the phone, trying to figure out if this was a trap, if Derek had sent her to gather evidence that I was unstable, if this was part of Ellen Park's strategy. But I was going to go anyway, because I needed to know. The next day, I arrived at the coffee shop at 11:30, found a table in the back where I could see the door, ordered coffee, and waited. Jill arrived at noon exactly. She was wearing jeans and a sweater, no makeup, hair pulled back. She looked nervous. Thanks for coming, she said. What do you want? She sat down, pulled out her phone, started scrolling. Derek and I have been seeing each other for 4 months. He told me his marriage was over, that he was leaving Amanda, that they were just waiting for the right time. That's not true. I know that now, but I didn't know it then. She turned her phone toward me. He also told me about the business, about how you were losing your mind, how you'd become paranoid and controlling, how he and Linda were trying to protect the company from you. Also not true. I'm starting to figure that out. She scrolled to a text message. This is from 3 weeks ago, before you took back control. I read it. Dad's going to be a problem. We need to move faster. Linda's working on the conservatorship angle. If we can get him declared incompetent, we can take everything. I looked up at her. Why are you showing me this? Because I didn't sign up for this. I thought Derek was a good guy. I thought we had something real. But then Amanda called me yesterday, told me everything, and I realized I'm just another piece in whatever game he's playing. What do you want from me? Nothing. I just thought you should know what they're planning, and I thought you should have evidence. She forwarded the messages to my phone. There were dozens of them. Derek and Linda discussing strategy. Derek and Brian planning how to discredit me. Linda researching conservatorship law. Why are you doing this? I asked. Because they deserve it. She stood up. I'm leaving town, going back to Atlanta. I don't want any part of this anymore. They're going to know you gave me this. I don't care. Let them know. She walked out. I sat there staring at my phone, reading through the messages, feeling something that was equal parts rage and vindication. I forwarded everything to Paul with a note. Still think I'm paranoid? He called me 10 minutes later. Where did you get these? Derek's girlfriend. Jesus Christ, Robert. I didn't go looking for her. She came to me. Doesn't matter. This is explosive. This proves they were planning to have you declared incompetent. This proves conspiracy. This changes everything. What do we do with it? We go on offense. We file a countersuit for fraud, conspiracy, and attempted elder abuse. We argue that they were trying to steal the company through legal manipulation. We bury them. When? Give me a week to prepare. And Robert? Yeah? Stop doing anything that could be used against you. No following people, no surveillance, no contact with anyone involved in the case. Just run your company and let me handle the rest. Okay. I'm serious. I said okay. He hung up. I sat in the coffee shop for another hour, reading through the messages over and over. Each one made me angrier. Each one confirmed what I'd already known but hadn't wanted to admit. My kids weren't just greedy, they were cruel. They'd been planning to have me declared incompetent so they could take everything without a fight. I thought about Ellen, about how proud she'd been of Derek when he graduated college, how excited she'd been when Linda got her MBA, how she'd always said they were good kids who just needed guidance. She'd been wrong. I drove to the cemetery. First time since her funeral 9 years ago. Found her grave under an oak tree. The headstone was simple. Ellen Brennan, beloved wife and mother. I stood there for a long time, trying to figure out what to say. Finally, I said, I'm sorry. For what? I wasn't sure. For destroying the family. For not being the father she wanted me to be. For not letting go when I should have. Or maybe for letting go when I shouldn't have. I drove home. Spent the rest of the day working. Stayed focused. Stayed calm. Let Paul handle the legal strategy while I handled the business. By the end of the week, the countersuit was filed. Derek and Linda were formally accused of conspiracy, fraud, and attempted exploitation. The evidence was attached. Every email, every text, every unauthorized decision. Ellen Park called Paul and asked for a meeting. What do they want? I asked. To settle. They know they're screwed. The text messages are damning. They can't explain them away. No settlement. Robert, no settlement. I want this to go to trial. I want it public. I want everyone to know what they did. That's going to cost you, emotionally and financially. I don't care. Paul was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Okay, but be ready. Because if we go to trial, they're going to go scorched earth. They're going to attack your character. They're going to bring up every mistake you've ever made. They're going to try to paint you as an abusive father and a vindictive old man. Let them try. I'm just warning you. I know what they're going to do. I've been preparing for it since April. He hung up. I sat in my office looking at the framed photo of Ellen that I'd taken out of the drawer and put back on my desk. She was still smiling. I still wasn't. I'm burning it all down, I told her. I hope you understand. She didn't answer, but I didn't need her approval anymore. I'd stopped needing anyone's approval the day I found those emails in the storage unit. Now I just needed to finish what I'd started. The courthouse was already crowded when I arrived at 8:30. News vans in the parking lot, cameras on the steps, reporters shouting questions as I walked past with Paul. Mr. Brennan, do you think you'll win? Mr. Brennan, do you have any comment on the sabotage incident? Mr. Brennan, what would you say to your children if they were here? Paul kept me moving. Don't say anything, not yet. Inside, Derek and Linda were waiting with Ellen Park and 2 other attorneys I didn't recognize. Corporate reinforcements. Derek looked exhausted. Linda looked angry. Neither of them looked at me. The bailiff called us in at 9. Judge Odom took the bench. The courtroom was packed. Employees, clients, reporters, random people who'd read about the case and decided it was entertainment. Ellen Park stood to make her opening statement. Your Honor, this case is about an elderly man who can't accept that he's no longer capable of running a business. Robert Brennan built Brennan Transport through hard work and dedication. We don't dispute that. But over the last several years, his judgment has deteriorated. His decision-making has become erratic. His behavior has become paranoid and vindictive. His children, who love him and want what's best for him, stepped in to protect the company he built, and he responded by destroying their lives. She walked toward the jury box. We didn't have a jury. This was a bench trial. But she played to the audience anyway. The evidence will show that Mr. Brennan has spent months spying on his children, recording their conversations, following them, interfering in their marriages, spreading false accusations, and when they tried to address his concerns through proper legal channels, he retaliated by revoking their authority and filing frivolous counterclaims. She paused. This is not the behavior of a competent business owner. This is the behavior of someone who needs help, someone who needs protection, not from his children, but from himself. She sat down. Paul stood up. Your Honor, this case is about theft. Plain and simple. Derek and Linda Brennan spent 18 months systematically taking control of their father's company through fraudulent means. They operated outside their legal authority. They made unauthorized decisions. They planned to have him declared incompetent so they could complete their takeover. And the only reason we're here today is because Robert Brennan discovered their plan and stopped it. Paul gestured to the evidence table. The defense will present extensive documentation proving conspiracy, fraud, and attempted exploitation. We will show that since Robert Brennan resumed control of his company, performance has improved dramatically, revenue is up, efficiency is up, client satisfaction is up. These are not the results of an incompetent man. These are the results of someone who knows exactly what he's doing. He walked back to our table. The plaintiffs want you to believe Robert Brennan is paranoid, but paranoia implies irrational fear. There's nothing irrational about being afraid when your children are actively trying to steal from you. That's called being aware. Judge Odom looked between both tables. Counselors, I've reviewed the preliminary materials. I have some concerns about the allegations on both sides. This is going to be a fact-intensive proceeding. I expect professionalism. I expect evidence. I expect both parties to remember that at the end of the day, this is a family. Understood? Everyone nodded. Good. Call your first witness. Ellen Park called Derek. He walked to the stand looking like he'd aged 5 years in 5 months. He swore to tell the truth. He sat down. Ellen smiled at him like a proud mother. Derek, can you tell the court about your relationship with your father? We were close. Growing up, I admired him. He worked hard. He provided for us. When I was younger, I wanted to be just like him. And as an adult, I wanted to help him, to take some of the burden off his shoulders. He'd been running the business alone since my mother died. I could see it wearing on him, so I came back to help. And how did he respond? At first, he was grateful. He seemed relieved. But over time, things changed. He became suspicious, accusatory. He'd question every decision we made. He'd second-guess everything. It was like he couldn't accept that we were capable of running things without him. When did you first become concerned about his mental state? Derek looked down. About a year ago. He started forgetting things, repeating himself, getting confused about dates and contracts. Small things at first, then bigger things. Can you give an example? There was a client meeting in June of last year. Major account. My dad showed up an hour late. Said he'd forgotten about it. The client was annoyed. We almost lost the contract. Did you address this with your father? I tried. He got defensive, said I was trying to undermine him. Were you? No, I was trying to help him. Paul stood up. Objection. The witness is characterizing his own motivations. Sustained. Stick to facts, Mr. Park. Ellen nodded. Derek, did there come a time when you and your sister discussed your father's condition? Yes, we were both seeing the same things. The forgetfulness, the paranoia, the anger. We agreed we needed to do something. What did you decide? We decided to take on more responsibility, to handle the day-to-day operations so he could rest. We thought if he had less stress, maybe he'd improve. And did he? For a while. But then in September, he suddenly revoked all our authority, changed the locks, cut off our access. It was like he'd snapped. Did he explain why? He accused us of stealing from him, of conspiring against him. It was completely irrational. How did that make you feel? Heartbroken, angry, confused. This was my father, the man who raised me, and he was treating me like a criminal. Ellen walked to the evidence table. Your Honor, I'd like to enter Defense Exhibit A. This is a psychiatric evaluation conducted by Dr. Michelle Torres. Paul stood. Objection. That evaluation is confidential and privileged. We obtained Mr. Brennan's consent to release it for this proceeding. He didn't consent to public disclosure. Judge Odom looked at me. Mr. Brennan, did you consent? I consented to the evaluation, not to making it public. Motion to seal granted. The exhibit can be entered but not read aloud in open court. Copies will not be provided to the press. Ellen looked annoyed but didn't argue. Your Honor, the evaluation states that while Mr. Brennan's cognitive function is intact, Dr. Torres has concerns about his emotional regulation and judgment. I've read it, the judge said. Move on. Ellen turned back to Derek. When your father resumed control of the company, what happened to your employment? He fired us, me and Linda, told us we were suspended pending review. We never got a review, we just got lawsuits. How has this affected your life? It destroyed it. I lost my job, I lost my income, my wife divorced me because of the stress, I can't see my kids regularly. I lost my house, everything fell apart. Because of your father? Objection, Paul said, leading. Sustained. Ellen tried again. Who do you blame for these losses? My father. He did this. He chose this. Thank you. No further questions. Paul stood up. He didn't look at Derek like a friend. He looked at him like prey. Mr. Brennan, you testified that you came back to help your father. Is that correct? Yes. When did you come back? About 2 years ago. And before that, you were working in Charlotte? Yes. Making good money? Yes. So why come back to a small regional company? Why take a pay cut? Derek hesitated. I missed home. I wanted to be closer to family. Or did you see an opportunity? What do you mean? I mean your father was getting older. Your mother had died. You saw a chance to position yourself to take over the company. That's not true. Then why did you ask your father to make you VP of operations within 2 months of returning? Because I had experience. I could help. And why did you hire your friend Kevin to rebuild all the computer systems that conveniently excluded your father from administrative access? That wasn't intentional. It was just more efficient. Paul walked to the evidence table. Your Honor, Plaintiff's Exhibit 12. An email from Derek Brennan to Kevin Lawrence dated March 15th of last year. I'll read the relevant portion. Make sure the new system has me and Linda as admins. Don't add Dad. He'll just slow things down. Derek's face went red. That's taken out of context. What context makes that okay? I was trying to streamline operations. By cutting your father out? By preventing confusion. Confusion. Interesting word. Paul held up another document. Plaintiff's Exhibit 19. An email from you to Linda dated April 2nd of this year. Quote, Dad's going to be a problem. We need to move faster. Linda's working on the conservatorship angle. Did you write that? Silence. Mr. Brennan, did you write that email? Yes. What did you mean by conservatorship angle? We were discussing options. Options for what? For protecting the company if Dad became incompetent. He wasn't incompetent. We didn't know that. You never had him evaluated before that email, did you? No. So you were discussing conservatorship before you had any medical evidence of incompetence. Doesn't that suggest you were planning to take the company regardless of his actual condition? Objection, Ellen said. Argumentative. Sustained. Rephrase. Paul nodded. Let me ask it this way. Did you ever intend to return control of the company to your father? If he was capable, yes. But you were the one deciding if he was capable, correct? Along with Linda. 2 people who stood to benefit from him being declared incapable, 2 people who would inherit the company if he was removed. Doesn't that strike you as a conflict of interest? We were trying to protect him. From what? From himself? Or from interfering with your takeover? Objection. Withdrawn. Paul walked back to our table. One more question. You testified that your divorce was caused by your father's actions. But isn't it true that you were having an affair? That your wife divorced you because you'd been sleeping with someone named Jill for 4 months? Derek's face went from red to white. That's not relevant. It's relevant to your credibility. You stood here and blamed your father for your divorce. But the truth is, you destroyed your marriage yourself. Isn't that correct? Objection, Your Honor. This is harassment. Judge Odom looked at Derek. Answer the question. Derek stared at his hands. Yes, I had an affair, but my father used it against me. He sent evidence to my wife. He interfered. Your wife asked him for the evidence, didn't she? I don't know. Yes, you do, because she told you. She asked for proof, and he gave it to her. He didn't seek her out. She came to him, correct? I guess. You guess or you know? I know. Thank you. No further questions. Derek left the stand looking like he'd been beaten. Ellen Park called Linda next. Linda was more composed, more prepared. She walked to the stand like she owned it. Linda, how would you describe your relationship with your father? Complicated. I love him. I've always loved him. But he's not easy to work with. He's controlling. He doesn't trust anyone. He doesn't delegate. When you joined the company as CFO, what were your goals? To modernize the financial systems, to improve efficiency, to help Dad prepare for eventual retirement. Did he support those goals? At first, yes. But as I made changes, he became resistant. He didn't like giving up control. Even small things, like switching to electronic invoicing, became battles. Did his resistance concern you? Yes. It suggested rigidity, an inability to adapt. Those are warning signs. Paul stood. Objection. The witness is not qualified to diagnose cognitive issues. Sustained. Ellen continued. What happened in September when your father revoked your authority? I was shocked. I'd spent 18 months building systems, negotiating contracts, improving our financial position, and he destroyed it all in one day. He locked me out, fired me, accused me of crimes I didn't commit. How did that affect you? It devastated me. My husband and I had built our life around my work at the company. When I lost that, we lost everything. Our income, our stability, our future. And how is your relationship with your father now? Non-existent. He won't speak to me. Won't return my calls. He's cut me out of his life completely. Why do you think he's doing this? I think he's angry that we tried to help him. I think he sees our concern as betrayal. And I think he'd rather destroy the family than admit he needs help. Thank you. Your witness. Paul stood. He looked at Linda like she was a liar. Which she was. Ms. Brennan, you testified that you spent 18 months improving the company's financial position. Is that correct? Yes. Can you explain why revenue dropped 12% during that time? It didn't. Your Honor, Plaintiff's Exhibit 24, financial statements from January through August of this year. They show a consistent decline in revenue. Linda's jaw tightened. Those numbers are misleading. We were restructuring. Short-term losses for long-term gains. And yet, in the 2 months since your father resumed control, revenue is up 15%. How do you explain that? Market fluctuations. Or maybe your father is better at this than you are? Objection. Sustained. Paul moved on. You testified that your father is controlling and doesn't delegate. But isn't it true that he gave you full financial authority? That he trusted you with bank accounts, contracts, vendor relationships? Yes, but... So he did delegate. He delegated to you, and you used that authority to slowly transfer control away from him. Correct? That's not what happened. Then what did happen? I modernized systems, I streamlined processes, and excluded him from access. That wasn't intentional. Ms. Brennan, there are 17 emails and evidence showing you and your brother explicitly discussing how to keep your father out of decision-making processes. Are you saying those emails are fabricated? No. Then they're real, which means you were intentionally excluding him, which means your testimony about modernization is a lie. Objection. Counsel is badgering the witness. Sustained. Watch your tone, Mr. Vickers. Paul nodded. Let me ask this plainly. Were you planning to have your father declared incompetent so you could take permanent control of the company? No. You never discussed conservatorship with Derek? We discussed it as a contingency, if he became unable to function. He's functioning fine now. That's debatable. Is it? The company is performing better than it has in years. Clients are satisfied. Employees are satisfied. The only people who aren't satisfied are you and your brother, because you're not in charge anymore. Linda's eyes filled with tears. He's my father. I just wanted to help him. You wanted to replace him. There's a difference. Objection. Withdrawn. No further questions. The 2 weeks felt like 2 years. I worked. I reviewed files. I met with clients. I kept the company running at peak efficiency because if I lost this case, I wanted the judge to see exactly what she'd be taking away. Tom noticed. Boss, you okay? I'm fine. You're here at 6 every morning. You don't leave until 8 at night. That's not fine. It's necessary. For what? For proving I can do this? He looked at me like I was a stranger. You already proved it. The numbers prove it. The clients prove it. I'm protecting what's mine. He walked away shaking his head. I didn't care. He didn't understand. Nobody understood except Paul, and even he thought I was taking it too far. On day 10, Linda called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Dad, I miss you. I know you're angry. I know you think we betrayed you, but we didn't. We were trying to help. Please just call me back. Let's talk. Before the judge rules, before this becomes permanent. I deleted it. On day 12, Derek showed up at my house. I watched him through the window. He stood on the porch for 5 minutes, knocking, waiting. Finally, he left. On day 14, the ruling came. Paul called me at 7 in the morning. She's issuing the decision today. Hearing at 10. Be there at 9:30. I was there at 9. The courthouse was less crowded this time. No news vans, no reporters. Just me and Paul, Derek and Linda and Ellen Park, and Judge Odom. She took the bench at 10 exactly. I've reviewed the evidence. I've considered the testimony. I've read the evaluations. This is a difficult case because both sides have legitimate grievances. Mr. Brennan's children did overstep their authority, but Mr. Brennan's response was disproportionate and vindictive. My stomach dropped. However, after careful consideration, I'm ruling in favor of the defendant. Mr. Brennan has demonstrated that he is competent to manage his business. His cognitive function is intact. His business judgment is sound. And while his emotional response to this situation is concerning, it does not rise to the level of incapacity. I exhaled. Paul squeezed my shoulder. That said, I'm imposing conditions. Mr. Brennan, you will submit to quarterly psychiatric evaluations for the next 2 years. If at any point your condition deteriorates, this ruling can be revisited. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor. Derek and Linda Brennan, your claims of incompetency are dismissed. However, Mr. Brennan's counterclaims of fraud and conspiracy are also dismissed. The evidence suggests poor judgment on both sides, but not criminal conduct. Ellen Park stood. Your Honor, what about damages? My clients lost their jobs, their income. Your clients lost their jobs because they operated outside their legal authority. That's not wrongful termination. That's consequences. Claims dismissed. The gavel came down. It was over. Outside, reporters had somehow materialized. They shouted questions. Paul guided me past them. Derek and Linda left through a different exit. We didn't see each other. In the parking lot, Paul said, You won. I know. So why don't you look happy? Because winning doesn't fix anything. They're still who they are. I'm still who I am. Nothing's changed except now it's official. What will you do now? Run my company. Live my life. Stay away from them. Forever, if that's what it takes. He drove me back to the office. I worked until midnight. Went home, slept 4 hours, got up, and did it again. A week later, Amanda called. Robert, I wanted to thank you for testifying, for helping me. You don't need to thank me. Yes, I do. You didn't have to do that. You could have stayed out of it. Derek destroyed his own marriage. I just documented it. Still, I appreciate it. And I wanted you to know. The kids ask about you. They miss you. I miss them too. Do you want to see them? Does Derek know you're calling me? No, and he wouldn't approve. But I don't care what he approves anymore. They're my kids too, and you're their grandfather. Set something up. Let me know when and where. Okay, I will. She hung up. I sat there feeling something that might have been hope, or maybe just the memory of what hope used to feel like. Derek and Linda didn't call, didn't write, didn't reach out. The silence was total. Brian sent one final email. I hope you're happy. You destroyed everything. I replied, They destroyed it first. I just made sure everyone knew. He didn't respond. 3 weeks after the trial, I took my grandkids to the zoo. Amanda dropped them off at my house. Told Derek she was taking them to her mother's. A necessary lie. They were cautious at first. 8-year-old Megan, 6-year-old Tyler. They'd been told things about me. I could see it in the way they watched me, like I was dangerous. Are you guys hungry? I asked. Yes, Tyler said. We got hot dogs, fed the ducks, watched the elephants. By the afternoon, they were laughing. By the evening, they hugged me goodbye. Can we come back? Megan asked. Anytime you want. Amanda picked them up at 6. Thank you for this. Thank you for letting me. Then don't tell him. She nodded. Drove away. I watched them go, feeling like I'd won something that actually mattered. A month after the trial, I got a letter from Linda. Handwritten, 4 pages. Dad, I've been in therapy, trying to understand what happened, trying to understand why you hate us so much, that you blame us for not being there, that you've been angry for 9 years, and this was just an excuse to let it out. Maybe she's right, maybe she's wrong. I don't know anymore. Yeah, all I know is I miss you. I miss having a father. I miss thinking I had a family. But I know that's gone now. You made sure of it. So I guess this is goodbye. I hope you're happy with what you've built. I hope it keeps you warm at night. Because you've got nothing else now. Love, Linda. I read it 3 times. Then I put it in a drawer and never read it again. Derek sent nothing, which was somehow worse. Business continued. We grew, hired new staff, won new contracts. By the end of the year, revenue was up 23%. Brennan Transport was thriving, and I was alone. That was the trade. Success for solitude, victory for isolation. I'd won the war and lost everyone who mattered. At night, I'd sit in my house and think about Ellen, about what she'd say, about whether she'd be proud or horrified. Probably horrified, but she wasn't here to have an opinion. None of them were. I was alone with my company and my principles and my certainty that I'd done the right thing. On Christmas Eve, I worked. On Christmas Day, I worked. On New Year's Eve, I sat at home watching television, drinking whiskey, thinking about the year that had passed. At midnight, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Dad, it's Linda. I should have hung up, but I didn't. What do you want? I wanted to hear your voice. It's New Year's, and I'm sitting here alone, and I thought maybe you were too. I am. Does it bother you? Being alone? Sometimes. Me too. Silence. Neither of us knowing what to say. Finally, she said, I'm sorry. For what we did, for how we did it. You were right. We were trying to take the company. We told ourselves it was for your own good, but that was a lie. We just wanted it, and I'm sorry. Okay. Is that all you're going to say? What else is there? I don't know. Forgiveness? Understanding? Anything other than okay? I can't give you those things, Linda. Maybe someday, but not now. When? I don't know. Will you ever speak to me again? Like actually speak? Like we're family? I don't know that either. She was quiet for a long time. Then, Happy New Year, Dad. Happy New Year. She hung up. I sat there with the phone in my hand, thinking about forgiveness and family and whether any of it could be salvaged. Probably not. But maybe. Someday. Just not tonight. I poured another whiskey and watched the ball drop on television and thought about Ellen and Derek and Linda and the company that had cost me everything and given me nothing but proof that I'd been right. And I wondered if being right was worth it. The answer, I suspected, was no. But it was too late to change course now. I'd burned the bridges, salted the earth, destroyed the family to save the company, and now I had to live with it.